I'm always good. I've been good recently. I've been choosing good. Does that make sense? Sometimes you choose good.
Life has been great, especially since the last episode. I like coming. This is my third time on the show. This one arguably is a little bit of a different contrast for me and Brant, but every time there's about a 6 months to a year period, and the way him and I grow, it's always cool to come back because each time is like a whole new chapter of life. So
100%.
Welcome to chapter 3, and we're going into some good stuff today. So I'm very stoked for this.
Yeah, man, I'm stoked that you made it out here. I always appreciate your presence. You're one of those people that has out-yapped me on my own show.
Oh, I'm the daddy now. All right. Today's topic is, I guess, highlighted, make America healthy again. And that's a very broad but a very specific statement, but a topic that me and Brant talked about for a long time and we're very excited to kind of dive into.
I find myself asking the question why too often when it comes to our food supply, our eating habits, our food pyramid that was government funded. This is what you should eat. And there's so many conspiracies behind it, but I'm not a conspiracy guy. I'm a, hey, let's be healthy guy.
Yeah.
I'm 24 now, and throughout my early 20s, becoming a man, health is extremely important. A big goal of ours is procreation, finding a beautiful wife, having beautiful children. A lot of men align with that. So it's nice to see the political landscape stepping in, led by RFK Jr. So it's a big, broad topic. It's a difficult one to attack, and that's why I drank a Pedialyte before we recorded.
Yeah, gotta stay on that electrolyte grind.
Yeah.
And it's weird, and not even in a political sense, but it's unfortunate that in America, in order to maintain even the most basic level of health, it has to become a political issue. Me and Brant, we are not political people. We don't, we're not very diehard to, push points and all these other things. But, at this point, just simply the basis of being healthy and eating healthy, whether that be in working out and in diet, has become such a nationwide issue. And it's very sad to see. And in contrast, you don't realize how bad it is because of how normalized it is. There's a lot of stuff that goes on in the world nowadays that are terrible things. And 10 years ago, the world would lose their absolute mind. But it's been so dumbed down by how much messed up stuff is in the world that people find it almost as a normality, or they're just like, oh, well, that's just part of life. And I think a lot of times that's because you don't have a comparison to what it should be.
We both made trips to the opposite side of the world. I went to Korea. I remember this one situation where the chicken was falling off the bone, and it was the best chicken I've ever had in my life. And I look at the waitress / owner, they kind of own the restaurant even though they're serving you. I go, why is this chicken so good? She's like, we killed them last night. And in America, that's a joke. That's a dad joke dads say. Oh, they killed the chickens in the back last night. There, they actually have local farming, local chickens at their households or their farms, and they sell it to the humans that eat out. I ate out every single day in Korea, and I felt perfect. If I did that in America, I would be sick. I would have zits.
I could rant about this. And I want to take this slowly because I want to be able to dive into the comparison.
Yeah.
I would say I'm biased. I'm half Japanese, but I would also statistically, bias aside, Japan, Asia in general, healthiest continent there is, right? And that's to be said for a lot of different reasons. One is the care that's put in between making the meals and stuff like that. In America, it is a normality to eat out. However, doing that will cause extreme side effects that people will oftentimes long-term see very negative results because of. In Japan, in Asia, especially in Japan, people work all day. People in Japan, the only standard is to work and then you go home. So large majority of the focus in meals is eating out, okay? And, you have Amazon in Japan has meals that you can order off of Amazon, get them delivered to your door hot and ready within 30 minutes of ordering, right? It's basically like a Uber Eats function, but through Amazon. And it doesn't matter where you go. The 7-Eleven convenience stores, a restaurant, a hole in the wall, Red 40, preservatives, all these, they've been sitting in a freezer, does not exist in Japan. And like even McDonald's, I know that there's a huge stipulation behind McDonald's, but like they don't freeze any of their products at the McDonald's in Japan. And the taste becomes a crazy different taste just from solely not freezing your products, right? And so I went there for 10 days, right? And I've noticed in America that I have a very sensitive stomach. I think it's because of basically my roots. Just Japanese digestion systems aren't the greatest in terms of handling American food. And so I've always struggled with eating, especially fast food, greasy stuff. My body does not respond well to it. I'm in Japan, just like Brant said, 10 days. And, I ate out 99% of the time. And you feel amazing, right? The food, one, is just unbelievable. And that's chefing, though. That's a little different. But food's unbelievable. And then you eat in courses. It's not like appetizer, main course and dessert. You eat like 9 different courses, and they're little dishes. And you could eat all 9 of them. And then after you're done, it's not that sick, like I got to sit down, I got to go to sleep, I got to basically turn off feeling. You feel great. You could walk 30 minutes and then be able to eat a whole new meal. And it's just the difference. And you don't realize that because you don't have comparisons in America. But what a massive difference it makes to solely just start there.
Yeah. Being in Korea and Japan for 2 weeks and then landing in Atlanta, that's when I first realized we really do have a chronic disease epidemic.
It's depressing.
Multiple comorbidities, obesity being the biggest one. I think it's like almost 1 out of every 2 adults in America are obese. It's crazy. And I hate that I'm recording a podcast from my home country, America, and talking about how real food would be nice. Real food sounds sick. I went to Japan and I had real food. It was real food. 73% of our food supply is ultra processed foods. Our McDonald's burgers are not the same they're giving to other countries. Our burgers are not just beef.
That's not meat.
They're ultra processed, meaning ultra processed foods means there's so many ingredients in it, you have to call it ultra processed. There's a quantitative number on that, maybe 5, 6 ingredients. It should be 1 ingredient. Right. It should be beef.
And then like you have one side where people are like, okay, well then the meat's stained and disruptive, so let's go vegan. Vegan alternatives are worse than the processed food.
Right.
Because of what they put in there to try to equalize the nutrients in meat.
Yeah, vegans are the worst. I'm
not going to diss vegans. I will never be vegan. But, yeah. And then you have the other side where, okay, grass-fed's, pasture raised is what you want. But like, especially in Florida, in your major cities like LA, Austin, where they're having huge health conscious movements, it's better. It's more accessible. In places like Florida, if you want grass-fed beef, one, you're either paying out the dick for this, like basically 5-star restaurant prices just to get a ribeye, or you have to order it online, which is just like crazy expensive, and so people get intimidated very easily by the thought of being healthy, and instead of like trying to adapt, they just give up.
Yeah.
And I'm like, this is your future we're talking about. This is your kid's life. This is a happy marriage, a healthy marriage, a marriage that doesn't end in you and your wife ending up in the hospital constantly, being overweight, struggling with obesity, not being able to be a good representation to your kids or your friends or your family. And it stems from, to call people out, it's just honestly laziness. People are not willing to do the bare minimum to protect their health because we're so used to being young. And I'm like, why are we feeling old? At least for me, like I've been an athlete since I was 6 years old. I feel so old in terms of what my body's been through and how I feel nowadays. How like I'm partially sick right now. I was sick 3 weeks ago, and it's just like it's terrible. How normal that is.
Make Sage healthy again. I think I didn't grow up with almond parents. I didn't get the lavish lifestyle of having parents who taught me how to eat. I kind of had to figure that out growing up through playing basketball, weight training, etc. Now training for a marathon, which is sick. Before baseball games, my dad used to make me drink. And I love you, Dad. He's watching this right now for sure. My dad's the biggest supporter. I love you so much, Pops. But he would make me drink a large Mountain Dew and eat a Big Mac before my baseball games because I needed energy.
And when you don't know
That's
better,
crazy.
that's normal though too.
In
You know?
America, yeah.
And like my mom was, she's Japanese, and her stomach cannot handle American food. Like the GMO stuff, like it fucks her up. And so like she was always super like, we can only have organic, we can only do this. And I didn't understand that as a kid. I hated that. I thought that was like really weird. And I've been a very hardcore athlete my whole life. And up until I was 21, I was invincible. I could eat a whole, 12 count Chick-fil-A meal with large fries and a milkshake and go hardcore train for 4 hours, like within like 10 minutes. Because I had a very fast metabolism. But nowadays, if I don't eat correct, if I don't eat 3 meals a day, if I don't maintain my hydration, my training tanks. Like I'm talking like 50% capacity. It makes a massive difference. But people just, part of not being healthy or part of being okay with not being healthy is also the other side of being healthy is that they don't work out. And so then you don't see the effects of your diet because you're not in a way that pushes you to do it. In Japan, Korea, what's the one thing that everybody does? They walk.
Walk.
Everywhere.
Yeah.
Every single day. I'm talking, miles and miles and miles of steps. And it makes a massive difference because no matter what, every single day you're putting in 20, 30,000 steps, In America, that culture just does not exist.
I used to be, well, technically I still am. I was a personal trainer when I was 19 years old, certified through Charles E. Poliquin. And I worked alongside this trainer who said something to me that changed my perspective. And this was when I was 19, so it seems a little bit more obvious now. Mm-hmm. But he's like, you train in here 2 hours a day. The other 22 hours is really what counts. That's about 90% of the time you're alive. So take the stairs, live a healthy lifestyle, eat the right food, nutritional dense food, keep your posture right, sleep with good posture. You can't just go into the gym. A lot of people prioritize exercise, and then the diet and all of the remedies and holistic measures are just a side note. So honestly, I think people really could change their lives with no exercise and small amounts of habit changes at first. Because some people hate exercise, Sage. Not everybody's a jiu-jitsu champion. Some people view all pain the same. Like us, I view pain as pleasure if it's benefiting my mental state and destroying my body.
That was kinky right there.
But honestly,
no, I get what you mean. I self-destruct when I don't have movement and like some kind of form of like sacrifice to like push something,
Yeah.
And like for the younger audience out there, I can completely understand how intimidating it is and how reasonable it is to just, I can't do this. When you look at social media, everybody's an expert. Everybody tells you what to do and everybody's opinion is different, right? And so when you look at like, oh man, I would like to be healthy, but where do I start? And that's the thing about all things and nowadays, people overcomplicate it, right? It's 3 factors. Eating somewhat healthy, and it's not even about, you don't have to go and get grass-fed stuff, just cutting out processed sugars. That one thing will make a massive difference, Fast food, cut that out. Try to make stuff at home or eat places that are more beneficial to your health. You're not covered in grease. If you can avoid seed oils, great, right? Work out. You don't have to go to the gym and you don't have to lift 200 pounds. You don't have to go learn how to fight, but I'm talking 30 minutes of exercise. Like they say, you can go walk around the park. You can get outside. Just working out makes a massive difference, and it doesn't have to be intense. People go too hard. They want to be healthy. They go through a massive kick for 2 weeks. They're killing themselves in the gym, and then they never come back to it again because they went too hard. And sleeping. Everybody stays up late because they want to, they want to stay up late on their phones. They got stuff they want to do. And I get that, but sleep is one of the most important parts of recovery. And then 4, which is another topic, is alcohol and drug intake. Makes
a lot of it.
A lot of it. And I don't care what you say. There's no excuse to why you can't minimize or cut out drinking. Okay? Like people are always like, "Oh, well, I don't get a chance. I work so hard." So then why throw it away for alcohol? I used to do alcohol. I used to drink probably like 4 out of the 7 days of the week, when I'm talking 18, 19, 20, I used to do explicit hard drugs regularly. And it's not to flex, and I would never recommend doing that because it almost killed me. But it's to show that no matter how deep you go, how alcoholic you are, there's a way to pull yourself out of that. And you have to minimize that. I don't care how young you are. And my excuse was always, I'm young. I'll fix it later. And thank God I did. But I look at all my friends that were with me when I did it, and they're still doing it. And I have very, very little faith in their ability to fix their lives, just because that excuse and that mindset of I'm young is basically killing them. And there's nothing you can do.
And also, I think we're extreme beings. I think we like pretty marvelous, huge things. And that's why drugs and alcohol,
or like as humans.
I think drugs and alcohol are very exciting because they're huge and high dopamine.
Yeah.
I want people to know that ice baths, running 45-minute aerobic runs, jiu-jitsu practice, pickup basketball, bench press, all those things have the same dopamine factor to it. I think we're extreme. I like being extreme. I like crazy stuff. I like my mind being boggled. I could do that in pill form. I could choose the pill form, or I could run a 45-minute aerobic run and get all the same dopamine.
We make excuses for why we need those things. And like, I'm telling you, you're able to do it. You know, like I had a roommate that struggled with going out and smoking every single day. And don't get me wrong, I used to smoke every single day for a year and a half religiously. I never thought I would quit smoking weed. Like I thought that was just going to be a characteristic of mine forever. Mm-hmm. And like, you don't realize the excuses you make to try to maintain your high or your extra high dopamine view of life. And, it's fucking up your diet. Every time you smoke, you want to go eat processed sugars, processed foods, all the stuff that tastes good. Healthy food does not taste good when you're high. Like it does, but it's not the way that, a McDonald's tastes or fries taste. And all these different factors, your sleep, you can't go to sleep without being high. And, you going somewhere, anywhere, oh, well, got to get high. And you don't realize the long-term effect that has on you. And my roommate was smoking for like 8 years every day. And he was like, well, I want to quit, but like, I'd just be bored. I don't know what I want to do with my life. Like, I wouldn't know what I want to do. And I'm like, yeah, but your alternative is getting high and going to sleep. You work all day, you get home at 3, 4 p.m., and you just get high and you go to sleep till it's time to go to bed. Those are hours. And I know this is hard because not everybody knows what they want to do, but where do you see that ever taking yourself in a beneficial manner? You already live a life. The older you get, the less time you have. And you don't realize how many little moments getting high and spending that 1 hour period where you're like violently, just in there, how much that wastes your time. If you're doing that 2 to 3 times a day, that's 3 to 4 hours a day. When you're already working 6 to 8 hours a day, that's your whole day that you just wasted to chase a feeling or to chase, this relaxation and peace and all that. And it's like, at some point you have to be realistic with yourself. And I can't tell young people enough, like, you're going to have to face reality that this is not going to be long term. And like, I'm all for things from the earth. I think weed's okay. It's not the end of the world, of everything. Like it's whatever. I think, psychedelics, I think those are cool, like mushies. I think mushies are cool. But, like alcohol is just straight poison. There is no benefit, no, long-term benefit. It is poison. You are destroying your body with alcohol, and people don't take it seriously. But I was like, bro, I wish I could tell myself. And like, sometimes you just got to live it. I wouldn't have listened at 18 and 19 to me saying this right now. Like, I had to get it out of my system, but getting it out of your system will often kill you too.
When it comes to the broad aspect of America and drugs and alcohol and weed and even mushrooms get wrapped into this category of, you can do it if you're intelligent about it and have a conscience about it. But then there's the whole other side of America, especially in the big cities, where it's the opioid epidemic where people are just leaning like zombies. And I've driven through many cities, and it's there. If you haven't been to the city recently, it's there.
Yeah.
And that's where they go. They go sit out there.
It's a normality now. People don't look at places like LA or Philly or Chicago and like, damn, we need to do something about this. It's just like, oh no, that's just Chicago. That's just New York City. Everybody's got crackheads, and it sucks. That's a broad spectrum. You're not going to be able to fix that with a podcast, but it is sad. Like you don't realize how normal the worst things are nowadays just because of how much social media dumbs it down.
Yeah. So there's a lot of our personal stories when it comes to health and some things we've lived. I kind of want to get into Bobby Kennedy, aka RFK Jr., and specifically what it means if he was to become Secretary of HHS. The Senate has to vote him in. I'm not politically affiliated. I listen to the best data that's given to me. I'm pro RFK. I like what this guy stands for. I think I've deemed his character as just and beautiful, no matter what political spectrum you are on. And if this comes back to bite me, it does. But I like the guy. I've listened to long form episodes, long form interviews of him. And my stance is I want RFK to be Secretary of HHS.
I don't do anything political. I will never speak about my political beliefs or opinions because I think everybody's opinionated to their own. I don't know RFK. I haven't really studied him like that. And so I'm not going to say I know his standards, his beliefs. I'm not sure if they're good, they're bad. But what I do know is that I want to be healthy and I want somebody in charge of our health code that reflects and repeats that. Comparatively to our last health administrative person that was in charge, complete disaster.
Yeah.
Absolute disaster. How low of a low the health system has gone in the last 4 years.
I think, and I hope by the end of this episode of this open conversation with me and Sage, you guys have an idea of if you like the way America is trying to move with RFK. And then if RFK doesn't get elected, this conversation isn't a waste.
Yeah.
These are things we still need to instill in our family households and also maybe politically eventually, because they are feeding us some whack stuff, Sage. I wanted to land a couple statistics really quick because we talked about how do we know America is unhealthy. Here's a couple things. 6 out of 10 adults have chronic disease. We spend the most in the world on healthcare. 23% of U.S. adults meet recommended aerobic and muscle strengthening activities. So nobody's exercising. I hate to go so Joe Rogan on you, but we're meant to be outside. We're meant to get sun. We're meant to get vitamin D. We're meant to run. We're meant to grab and grip. And a lot of people are living sedentary lives. Life expectancy is dropping in the U.S. the past 3 years. That's the first time ever. It's only gotten better. And the past 3 years, life expectancy has dropped. That statistic shows that America is getting more and more unhealthy.
And these aren't like crazy statistics. These aren't like, sometimes you hear really out there and they're like, oh, but a study's been done. Like one study in the whole, like these are backed studies. And like one of the most common things too is like health doesn't just, and I know this goes so far in, but health doesn't just have to do with food. I'm talking like I don't use shampoo or conditioner in my hair because I have yet to find a single product that doesn't have some form of chemical preservative that causes cancer or some kind of second nature disease. Okay. I was listening to, I don't even remember the name of it, a really famous doctor. And he's like, everybody thinks cancer is genetic. Like the large form of cancer patients are from genetics. Like, oh, it runs in my family. And he's like, no, it's the products you use every day. And it's the food you eat every day. He's like, that is the stem of the large majority. I'm talking the large majority of cancer in the United States.
Yeah.
And that's, but like, as long as you don't have cancer, you don't care. Nobody's going to care till it's too late to care. And that's what's sad,
100%. RFK Jr., he is addressing a lot of those things. I'm thinking the way we could organize this conversation is I kind of say a broad thing he's focusing on, and then we can have some open and honest conversation about it, and the viewers at home can listen to that. So this first one is a bit of a complex topic, and that's why I'm pinning it at the very top. It's regenerative farming. Right now, we have a very monocrop agriculture going on in America, and we produce a lot of food because of that. And this isn't something we can say, okay, regenerative farming is good. Farmers do this. farmers, and I've watched plenty of long form videos of farmers talking about regenerative practices and how it could actually happen. Regenerative farming is this way to biodiversify the farm again, have actual healthy soil, basically do it the natural way. Herbicides and pesticides, you don't need them if you have good topsoil. Our food that we eat today has less macro and less micronutrients than it had in the past. We're quite literally ruining our food. A piece of chicken a while back probably had way better macros.
Oh,
and it's way worse. Really quick to compare us, and I think it's so beautiful that I went to Korea and you went to Japan. 80% of Korean and Japanese farms are regenerative farms. 1.5% of American farms are regenerative farms.
Let's talk about it. I can go to Japan. I can go to any grocery store and I can get A5 Wagyu. I can get 10 ounces of that bitch for like $12. I go and I get a 1 ounce cube in an American restaurant. I'm paying excess of $100 to $120 an ounce because the standard of health is royalty in the US. Mm-hmm. And the standard of health in Japan is everyday life. I can go to any restaurant in Japan and they will have Wagyu. Any restaurant. And it's not to like, oh, I want to eat Wagyu beef. The health component is just a normality. And that normality is a royal sense. Only rich people can eat Wagyu in the US. That's the style. You got these Michelin star restaurants. They're like, we have Wagyu. Having base level standards of healthy beef is like a Michelin star concept in the US. And that's what's so sad. Like, and that's just, again, directly derivative of the farming and the crops in the US.
Yeah. And without getting too nerdy into this complex topic, JFK just wants to incentivize farmers to use regenerative techniques. These things, a big one is till or no till. So tilling is when they drive through their farm with this huge machine that absolutely digs and destroys the dirt and it kills all the microorganisms underneath. And there's no crop in the soil keeping it healthy. So this machine just runs through, destroys the dirt, and then they're able to plant because that aerates the soil and it allows them to plant the crop again. No-till is you put a placement crop. Once you yield your farm, say it's corn, and you can't yield more corn after that, you put a placement crop in its place and its roots keep the soil aerated. And that's the natural order of nature. Basically, with a couple of the next explanations I explain, you'll notice that there's a nature component of how it should and supposed to be and how plants live in the soil. And then there's the man-made, here's a huge machine, here's herbicides, pesticides, and this is how we do it and to get the most out of the soil. If you look at side-by-side comparisons of regenerative farms, the soil is dark brown, beautiful, even black. And then you look at non-regenerative practices, monocrop agriculture, the soil looks dusted, like it needs some skincare moisturizer on it. So this is a big thing that he's attacking.
It's convenience versus health. And unfortunately, Americans will always pay for convenience over like proper, comprehension. And like same thing with the animal. I don't know if you've ever like back then they had that documentary on Netflix about like the background of where McDonald's meat comes from and like how they're processing the meat and stuff. Unbelievable. And like, I know what he said might seem a little like, what the fuck are we talking about right now? But to simplify, it's just natural or unnatural. And anytime you put in unnatural, it just creates such a long-term effect. Why do you have to wash every single piece of fruit that you get from the store? Because they're sprayed with pesticides to maintain the longevity of the fruit and to prevent bugs from getting on there. And it's hard too, because I can't speak on the effect that having to use natural products, how much that costs farms, how much that costs, people that are raising cattle to feed them proper, food when you can give them processed foods and it's, quick and easy and they get fat and healthy, you make more money. But like at what point does the convenience of cost our lives,
And also even then digging into this topic, farmers are wanting or trying to make the switch because being a farmer is a hard gig. Oh, yeah. There's harvests that fail. There's times when weather happens or something penetrates your farm, hogs, and it ruins. You go in debt as a farmer a lot. Farmers get in debt. Regenerative farming actually helps farmers a lot if they switch some of their practices. A lot of them are coming to their senses and realizing how good their topsoil can be. It's a bit of a nerdy subject. Basically, to dumb it down to a summary, RFK wants to incentivize regenerative farming, government funded stuff. He wants to help smaller local places who are doing regenerative farming, keep them afloat rather than
getting drowned out by
the
big numbers that FDA pays.
Right now, the FDA wants to drown out local farms. They do, and this is how I know it. I was watching this talk of the FDA, and they were talking about how efficient they've gotten at approving beef, vegetables, all that. And their efficiency, they said their efficiency is going up because all the small farms are shutting down and all the large farms are getting bigger. And they're like celebrating it and clapping.
It's basically,
this is at a convention for the FDA.
It's a priority of people under their money belt, and the more people that they can just kick out that aren't under their paycheck, that are being paid to put all these processed, ingredients in our food, the easier their life becomes, which is a big thing RFK is talking about, is going to war with the FDA. And I agree. I think the FDA is a terrible corporation. And like the consensus of the videos RFK made, where he had, a table full of, I think the most common, like 40 ingredients that we feed our kids between candy, cereals, and he just starts going through the ingredients, and it's insane. And that's just all 100% FDA green light, let's feed it to the kids.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I'm conscious of this at 23 years old, but and I had like a 70-30 battle of health to like eating bad stuff as a kid. But like, if that's my normality as a 8-year-old nowadays, like I can't even imagine if this doesn't change how terribly the new generation is going to be. It's
already happening.
It's unfortunate.
To go into the next big focus, there's a nutritional label reform. They want to do a front of label, nutritional label, meaning on the front that's facing the aisle. That's where the nutritional label should be,
rather than tucked behind.
Because I'll tell you what, whenever I go grocery shopping, whenever I see another good-looking guy grocery shopping who's pretty fit, just like myself, they always pull out the box and they turn it around first, and then they look, and then you turn around, put it back, or you put it in your cart. Also, with the label reform, not even putting it on just the front, but you know how the calorie count's the biggest thing?
Mm-hmm. But
calorie count being deprioritized right beneath,
and the ingredients,
and having the ingredients list big and prioritized.
And you don't realize how fast you're sold on things based on how they hide it for fast marketing and consumerism. Yeah. But I do think little changes like that would make a massive difference.
Yeah, the ingredients list you should know what you're eating, and we don't. And now having RFK, this is why I say I like RFK. He's answering my why questions. Why don't we do that? He's answering them, and he's actually putting into play, I'm going to come in and I'm going to make sure these things get done.
And just all of RFK, like I spend a lot of time in Austin, Texas, and I find that Austin, Texas has been a really good representative component of the millennial Gen Z generation of trying to make a very health conscious movement. And like Austin was the first place where I really saw being healthy is worshipped, run clubs, working out. All these stores are popping up with grass fed, and it's a little bit easier because Texas has a lot of farms and stuff that promote that. But Austin's doing everything right, and like I don't know if RFK will be able to go through with his movement and get put into a position where he can make a difference. But I think for the first time in America, as much as bad as it is, there's also a slow rising movement of kids that are really, really trying to push the difference. Having a healthy lifestyle will make. And I think that's a great move for America, regardless of anything.
Yeah, I think you're exactly right. And I'm more, this podcast, I'm more so fighting for the people who don't like watching running reels, mm-hmm. or don't like ordering creatine from BPN. Like,
right.
I'm talking to, and this leads me into improved nutrition education. There's been two big whys in high school education for public education. I've always asked myself, why isn't there a mandatory financial course teaching you about debt, credit, loans, everything it means to live in America as an adult? And then the second thing was always
Nutrition.
I did a nutrition with diet therapy class in college. Why is that not mandatory in high school if people are dying at alarming rates and 50% of us are obese and they're feeding us poison?
The large majority of preservative and chemical consumption is kids, unfortunately. And yeah, I mean, that's a topic that I just never understood why it wasn't a priority, you know? And it's sad, it's unfortunate, but like, yeah. And like, you see the stuff that kids are eating at like lunch, like provided school lunches, unbelievable. It looks like prison food.
I was lucky enough that I had the classic story of my first love didn't work out. I'm in high school. I'm going to start working out because I want to look better. I want to feel better. It changed my life. I started watching David Lade. I started watching all those guys. A lot of bro science at the time, but things like, hey, eat lean meat. Eggs are actually a good source of fat. There is protein, but eggs are a source of fat. All these independent studies that I would go at home, I would take notes. I'd watch a David Lade vlog. I would take notes. What's his deadlift form? These things should be not deadlift form. Should be taught. Why not though? Why not?
Exercise and nutrition.
Yeah. Deadlift form could be taught in class.
And I didn't go to school. I was homeschooled, but like, as far as I know from feedback from my friends, PT class is a joke.
Yeah.
In my
and it's called
school.
PE. I can tell that
PE,
you don't.
PT.
Yeah.
Okay.
I can tell you never went to school.
I was in like military school. We called it PT, physical training. It's just unfortunate. And, you know, it's like the only people that are known to work out in high school were the athletes. So if you weren't part of that football or baseball or lacrosse, then working out was not your thing. And it's like, it's not that you need to work out, but there's so many ways that you can just make a massive difference in your life just daily. Like, what are some things you think you do daily that make a massive difference, health or exercise wise?
Well, that's a good question. Making sure, I'm training for a marathon, so I'm doing quite a bit of running. And of course I want to have muscle mass, so I do weight training. So I eat, I don't eat in meals. I eat pre and post training. So that's the way I view
according to your performance.
Right. Mm-hmm. So I go, okay, I need a pre-training meal right now. These are my sources, and this is what I should probably eat pre. And then post, I have my food sources. So I think of it in terms of fuel. How about yourself?
I mean, I think the same way. I can't exactly eat a steak and then go work out, but afterward it's great. You know, eggs are one of the only natural components that have pretty much every single vitamin that we need for nutrition. So I think consuming eggs are a huge part of remaining healthy. I eat probably 4 to 5 eggs a day. And electrolytes. Electrolytes are huge. Water is not enough to fuel your body. And don't get me wrong, I think 99% of people in the world are dehydrated. Yeah. And it makes a massive difference. And also the plethora of shitty electrolytes. Gatorade, absolutely terrible for you. Powerade, terrible for you. Because although it's marketed as such, Tom Brady, he wouldn't even take a Gatorade deal because he was like, yo, I'm not promoting this poison. Like, this is terrible. This is where I plug Santa Cruz. He's a very good friend of mine based in Cali. He's done a huge movement for the kids to promote the difference. Everybody knows who Santa Cruz is as a kid on social media, and the massive outtake where he goes in grocery stores and pays people $20 to put the Coke in their cart back. And, he sits outside McDonald's and gets yelled at because he pays people $40 to go turn around and not get McDonald's. Electrolytes, even like the powder forms, you see all your favorite influencers using Ghost electrolytes, all these different ones, and large majority of them still have chemicals that are terrible for you. Ghost electrolytes makes like a Sour Patch edition, like that's terrible for you. I use Santa Cruz electrolytes because they're salt-based electrolytes, and there's like 4 ingredients, and they're ingredients that everybody knows. When you have ingredients in your electrolytes that you can't pronounce, you shouldn't be taking them. When your electrolytes come out bright red and bright blue and they're sold in a gas station, large majority of those, you should not be taking those. And so I substituted electrolytes with my coffee. Anytime I wanted caffeine, I would drink electrolytes. That is, to this day, been the biggest difference from working out, eating healthy, everything. Substituting electrolytes for caffeine. Nothing wrong with caffeine, really, but substituting that has made the biggest difference in my health, my happiness, my mental clarity, my ability to work, my ability to work out. And you got to think about like why you want it. Like people talk about addiction with drugs and alcohol, but they don't talk about being addicted to candy, being addicted to sodas and all these different components. I think those are way more deadly long term because those are, you know, you might drink once in the weekend every week, and yeah, that's still bad for you, but that's not the end of the world. But drinking Coke every day or like every night you have to have a candy or something like that makes a massive difference. I always tell people, like, if you have to consume something processed, like there's nothing wrong with consuming electrolytes all the fucking time. Like you can never drink enough electrolytes pretty much. Your body is always needing salt to replenish. But if you have to consume something processed on a daily basis, it's going to create an issue. Like, love my girlfriend, but she has a caffeine thing where she cannot function without having 1 to 2 cups of coffee or some form of caffeine a day. And that becomes really unhealthy. Yeah. If she doesn't have that fix, she gets terrible migraines. And like the work that it takes for her to pull out of that, she doesn't deem worth it. And to me, like I cannot be in a lifestyle where I wake up and if I don't have coffee, I'm not going to work as well. I'm not going to be as nice to you. I'm not going to have a good day. And I'm like, that's insane to me. But people don't realize how subtly that sneaks into your life.
I remember before we fought, because we did a fight, it was about even.
Consensually.
Consensually, of course. I was I had adrenal fatigue and I could tell my sleep was getting worse. And it's because I started to drink 2 to 3 cups of coffee a day rather than my 1. And I was trying to not drink coffee before we fought each other, and I couldn't do it. Yeah. I had to drink coffee.
The depletion of hydration that juices, sodas, coffees do to you, I think like 2 glasses of electrolytes equals 1 cup of coffee. And so when you don't have 2 glasses of electrolyte and you just drink coffee, that makes a huge difference. And sometimes, you know, you feel dehydrated. You could drink 8 cups of water and you're not going to feel thirsty and you're just peeing all day. That's the only benefit. Water only works if you have salt to retain it in your body. So people think that just drinking a lot of water is the solution. No, you need salt, essentially. Yes. And salt is the rawest component, which is why I drink the Santa Cruz electrolytes, because they're the only ones that has a salt-based electrolyte. It's not based off of a preservative. It's based off of just salt. And they don't taste the greatest because it's pretty salty, but like that's the point. They say the best pre-workout you can ever do is Himalayan pink salt and honey, but it just make somewhat of a conscious effort. It makes a big difference. Also, like again, like I don't use shampoo or conditioner on my hair. I only use water. I have a reverse osmosis system for my drinking water and for my shower system. I don't use face washes. I think those are terrible for me. Now that's not for everybody because I know some people have acne. I don't really have that problem, but I find that when I use face washes, my face breaks out more. And so I don't like using stuff like that. I don't like using lotions if they're not natural. Lotions have a ton of chemicals, air fresheners, especially the ones in your car. They basically solidify chemicals in your air that you just breathe in while you're driving. Jeez. It smells great, but it's unbelievably bad for you. Candles are terrible for you. And like, I know it sucks. I'm saying like, hey, everything.
Yeah, anti-candle's crazy, dude.
Yeah, but it's true. And you can make a conscious effort that there are candles that don't create those issues. You know, there are air fresheners that aren't Tide Pods made with liquid. You think anything in that chemical form of a pod is good to be breathing in, but it smells good. So in our head, we're like, oh, that's good. Perfume, massive chemicals in those. Yeah. People say that perfumes are one of the top ways to get cancer because you're just spraying that onto your body and it's ingesting into your body. Like that's crazy to think about when you think of just taking straight chemicals to the dome, but people want to smell good and they don't want to think about the consciousness that it takes to just, maybe I should use a natural cologne or a natural perfume. Essential oils are a great alternative to scents if you're like really obsessed with like smelling good. But yeah, that's a little more depressing to think about, but I'm telling you, it makes a massive difference.
Yeah, I'm a big candle guy. So that anti-candle speech hurt me, but I get what you're saying.
It's not for everybody, but you know.
We live in a very consumer grade country. Consumerism is rampant. And even with what we like influencer wise, a lot of influencers get captured by consumerism. Oh, yeah. And now all they're doing is promoting this sick thing they got on TikTok Shop. Or the sick brand that they're working with. It's the
world. It runs America.
We're just doing too much. We're just doing too much. That's what I believe.
I don't know. My buddy Ian, Fonzie, he's a really popular influencer who's very health conscious, promotes a great health fitness wise. He's one of BPN's main athletes, works with Nick Bear a lot. But his one advice that I always just think about is like, you're doing too much. Just keep it simple. Everybody overcomplicates everything. And like, I know it gets really complex in terms, especially in consumerism and health, but like, just simplify it a little bit. Stop going so deep. Stop getting caught up by everything. Just simplify it. Don't overcomplicate it.
And it's so nice to see somebody like Ian talking like that, because this is a guy who, I've seen him do like 100 milers and like these insane races. And when you see somebody at peak performance, not preaching consumerism, but preaching, hey, you're doing too much.
Don't get me wrong, you could.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, that's why I love all the guys out there, like the Raw Dog boys in Austin, Noah, Darren, Tin, Ian, they're all good friends of mine. And like,
nice.
I think what they're doing is exactly what influencers should be doing,
I want to get into a little bit of a different topic, in line with JFK Jr. and kind of what he wants to do is, so my girl, and I don't know if you're similar, a lot of girls are like this, where I don't eat seafood. Does your girl not eat seafood?
No, we love seafood.
Oh man, your girl's gonna have to talk to mine and let her know.
Yeah, but I know a ton of people that don't eat seafood.
So seafood is extremely, extremely healthy. A lot of seafood, and it's really important in your diet. And I don't know why, but it's really popular to hate seafood and to hate game meat. People will not eat deer.
Are we talking like the raw seafood concept or just seafood in general?
Seafood in general, of course, there's pros and cons to each part, but RFK Jr. wants game and seafood advocacy. A lot of people, and in stores, it's hard to find like deer, elk, farmers who actually have game, stuff like that.
I think, no offense, I think you're childish if you can't get over the fact that it's seafood. Like, I think the large majority of it is because it's like, oh, it's a fish, it's a shrimp. And I'm like, yeah, damn right it is. It's fucking amazing. Have you ever had salmon skin? It's got some of the most like nutrients out of like any seafood, and it tastes amazing. I don't get why people don't do it. I love seafood.
I tell my girl this: if 2,000 years ago, I was in a little village by the shore, I would come home with some raw salmon. I would plop that thing on the pan, and you would be so happy.
Bro, kids are going nuts. Cats are mewing at your feet. All the villagers are coming around. Like, oh, he got a salmon.
Yeah, thank you.
The man in the sea, baby. The old man in the sea.
So I'm like, your seafood dislike is just mentally trained. I don't get it.
No, absolutely. I love the concept of promoting natural, from everything from the earth is great, because that's the truest form of life. That is the most organic, untouched form of life. I hunt. I grew up in Tennessee, so that's a very normal thing to me. To some people, it's not. I don't hunt for sport. I hunt for functionality. Okay. I shoot one deer a year, and that deer will feed me throughout the whole year. I have half of it cut up into steaks. I have half of it into ground venison, and some people don't like it. Like certain dishes, my girlfriend can't get over like the venison aspect, and it's not for everybody. But like the other quarter, I put into like deer jerky, unbelievably delicious. I absolutely love it. And that's hard for people. Santa Cruz talks about that. He's like, oh, I would love to go shoot a deer, just so I have it. Elk, Joe Rogan swears by elk steaks, and it's so unbelievably good. But people, I don't, and that's just a difference of being raised too, though. And like, if I was raised in California, I think I would have a different viewpoint, and being raised in Tennessee, out in the country, that's just a normality. My parents live on a farm, and it's an 80-acre farm. They grow all their own crops. They have about 100 chickens, and they have 4 pigs. 3 now, because one of them's in the freezer, right? And sorry, that's all bad. But to me, I think my parents, what they're doing is like the best thing ever. They grow like 40 different types of crops, everything from garlic, Japanese sweet potatoes to, lettuce to asparagus to green onions to strawberries to blackberries to raspberries. And I'm like, what a life. And it's just organic. They grow it myself. my dad was a landscaper growing up, right? And so I remember like 10 years ago, he would always talk about pesticides because he would spray people's lawns and he'd spray people's bushes. You know, he would keep them, the grass green for very rich clients and stuff like that. And so he was always like, man, I hate doing this because like you would spray it and you'd be like, hey, don't let your dog touch the grass for 48 hours. And you think about that, you know, and it's like, he hated that. And so he switched to organic and it was so expensive for people, but people were willing to pay that. And like, he made his money off of that. But like, so now when he has his farm, he raises everything organically, only uses like the best ingredients. He does the grass himself. And like you were saying, farming is expensive, but the reap, like they don't use the grocery store. They go through about like, I think it's close to like 300 eggs a week. And
do they sell anything locally?
Yeah, they give them away to their neighbors, and then they sell, like, again, you go to Publix, you want a dozen pasture raised eggs, you're going to pay about $10. Not only that, the main provider of pasture raised eggs recently got exposed for not actually being pasture and grass fed. Yeah. They had preservatives and chemicals in them. So they sell like a dozen eggs of those, and it's in Savannah, Tennessee, you know, middle of buttfuck nowhere, sorry. But, and they sell them for like $3 because they have so many eggs. But it's like that would be the lifestyle. I would love to live near a farm where I could just pop in. They buy half a cow every year, you know, and they have like some of the richest looking ribeyes I've ever seen because they buy it from a local farmer who organically raises his cows, and it's like their neighbor. What a life.
Yeah.
What a life. That's the ideal American life, but that's not realistic for everybody. I get it. But I love my parents for that because I think that's such a good inspiration for like where I'm going to be when I'm 50, 60 years old. That's my forte, baby.
Yeah.
Going straight there.
How you said not everybody can do that. That goes to a test for how we need to stand up for people that don't have the resources or money to do that. And that's why like local regenerative farming and changing the ingredients in our grocery stores are so important, because the people who are paying the ultimate price are the people who aren't buying organic, can't afford organic, can't afford to live next to a neighbor that has these things, or even have a car to drive to the market.
I'm very disappointed in Florida for what it offers in terms of like health conscious foods. I think we have a terrible market.
Yeah,
especially run by Publix and the inflation behind Publix prices. Have you tried to like buy like 6 ingredients to cook at home at Publix? Unbelievable.
Yeah, the BOGO is pretty nice still though. Buy one get one. That's pretty sick.
I feel like that's just
I feel like
I'm being consumerized.
2 tortilla chips for the price of one. You got me right there.
Yeah,
bub.
but they just inflate the price of their tortilla chips.
Dang, you got me.
But no, yeah. I like, and that's not everywhere. Like Miami's, you got a bunch of options, but Miami's Miami. But like in terms of like where I live, Daytona Beach, you will not find anything to do with pasture raised organic, and it's sad, bro. I wish it was more of a normality.
It's just a problem, man. We have a chronic disease epidemic. This next talking point, I don't know if I 100% agree with it yet, but funny enough, this is what RFK Jr. says is the first thing he's going to do, is remove fluoride from our drinking water, which we added fluoride.
Toothpaste.
Yeah, we added fluoride because it helps a lot with cavities. I kind of like removing
cancer.
Yeah, there's studies where it's also a neurotoxin, and there's also studies. There's 3 studies that they're trying to discredit, showing that it actually lowers IQ in children. But this is where we're going the route of we need a little bit more backing and hypothesis, but it's there. I think you're adding something to our water. I just don't like it. I don't know if I just like you adding stuff to it. Just let it be water, man.
That's why I use a reverse osmosis system. You can buy one online for like $200, and it was like I'm not a mechanic I'm not good with like tools and stuff, but it took me like 30 minutes to install, and it's just a filtration system for your water. Massive difference. Same with your shower. Massive difference.
Is there a reel of you installing it with your shirt off by chance?
No, but there can be. And that's like another thing about being in Asia. A lot of people talk about, if you talk about people that go to Asia, they're like, bro, my acne disappeared when I went to Asia. And it's because of the water. They don't put anything in their water. It's natural, purified water. And just that will typically clear people's acne in 2 to 3 days. people that believe that, oh, it's genetic and stuff like that, don't realize that a lot of it's just your water. Like, and like drinking tap water, terrible. Don't do it, please. I beg you. But I agree. Like, and like fluoride, I don't exactly know, but I know it's really bad for you. If you've ever
it
gone,
is a neurotoxin.
Yeah,
100% is a neurotoxin at a certain level.
I don't know if you've ever tried to go to a store. I went to Walgreens the other day and I tried to find a toothpaste. And Walgreens has like a massive selection of toothpaste. I'm talking 40, 50 brands. And I tried to find one that didn't have fluoride. I couldn't find a single one that didn't have fluoride in it. Wow. And I was just like, damn. Yeah.
And the reason they added fluoride to the water years and years ago, this was when people had poor teeth health and they weren't brushing as often and all the things we do now. It's kind of the same thing as alcohol used to be very, very popular way back in the day over water because water would poison you likely. There wasn't a lot of drinking water and alcohol and beer was the one way of getting your water intake without dying from bad water because it's purified in some sort of form.
Wow, I didn't know that.
So the same thing with fluoride. We don't really need it in our water no more, man. I rather don't give me something that's neurotoxic just so I don't get cavities. I can brush my teeth, brother. What is this added fluoride? Don't tell me.
I don't think so. I was just making sure. I was like, I hope I'm not being.
See, this is why we need front of label ingredients list. The fact that we're looking at and trying to find an ingredients list on water.
Are we stupid?
Yeah. I mean,
I don't know if it would be.
It should just be water.
I don't know if it would be listed though. Like, I think Dasani has like fluoride in it, but like, I don't know if it would be listed in there.
I mean, that's a thing too. There's a rounding down rule that we allow on our foods. If anything's less than 0.5 grams, they don't have to put it on the ingredients list. And so I could put 0.4 grams of iodine and not have to put that there's iodine.
And then you're not accounting for the plastic residue that builds off of using plastic water bottles into your water. It's just everything.
That's why we're drinking out of a can, baby.
Everything's rigged in this country, but that's the way it's supposed to be, I guess.
Should we get a little positive? Should we get positive?
How do we maintain positivity in this health conversation?
All my guy friends are pursuing good stuff, and they're eating decent. I have a group of men around me trying to be better.
Yeah,
that's positive.
I have great friends. I'm not gonna lie, especially being like a fitness creator. You attract your tribe, and I have amazing friends that are very health conscious.
Yeah, get a group of men around you. If you're a guy, and if you're a woman, get a group of women or men around you. It could be co-ed,
and you'll see yourself.
And lead the pack. Get them right. Get them wanting to align with morals.
Yeah, and it's great. Like, if you don't feel like you can see that in your friends, you either ditch them and get new ones, or you try being the reason that they want to change. I used to smoke every day. I used to drink all the time. I quit drinking. A lot of my friends became conscious to minimize their drinking. I quit smoking. I saw a lot of my friends quit smoking, and they made fun of me at first, and then they would quit, or then they would always talk to me about like, yo, I'm trying to quit too.
Yeah.
And some of them, they never did, whatever. It's not the end of the world, but like, you can make a big impact on your friends. I work out, and I work out a lot. I'm talking 2 to 3 times a day, which is insanely high for people, but you will never find me not being an inspiration to the health and fitness of me and my friends, because I am that one person that in the friend group, they're like, oh yeah, Sage got his shit together when we talk about health and fitness and all these things. And if you can't find that in your friend group, then be the Gandhi, baby.
I love this, man. This was the first episode of us both being hosts rather than a guest-based episode. So this is episode 131. We dug into everything, Make America Healthy.
131 episodes.
131.
Wow, look at that, guys.
Yeah, I came back from a hiatus, though. It's been a few months, but we've been working behind the scenes. This show has always been raw and authentic to who I am. And I was changing a lot, and I just had to take 3 months to myself. We're coming back with weekly episodes, baby. The next episode, we don't know what it is yet. That's exciting. It could be anything we want. We are going to do a holiday episode around Christmas, so be in tune for that.
Yeah, thank you for tuning in, guys. There's a lot we can do with that. So again, feedback is always appreciated too. You know, we are made of the people that we are supported by. So if you guys want to see something, let us know.
Yeah, this was a complex podcast, so if you have any input, throw it in the comments. I know I'll be responding. Maybe Sage will throw in some responses in there. We'll have some open conversation with y'all. I love you guys. This was the Wet Slap Podcast, episode 131. We're signing off, baby. Oh, I like that. That was